All right, you want to kick it off?
Yeah, yeah. Um, Good morning, Matt Kirschling with Gold Star Mortgage.
And this is Matthew Kemps with Lone Wolf Realty with Spyglass Realty, and
An Unvo with home.
this is two Mats, one market.
Look at that. We've been anticipating this meeting for what, almost 3 weeks?
3 weeks now.
I've seen the app. I've played around with it. I have it on my phone. It's good stuff. And the thing that excites me the most about it is the potential of getting away from some of the other companies that are kind of taking the majority of the market share and getting it back to some of the smaller companies, if you will, not to name any specific names. I think we all know who we're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
What are your thoughts on that? I mean, obviously they're a true competitor,
Right.
and do we look at them as like a competitor in regards to like there's an abundance, or is it a competitor like we want to take them down?
Well, I think there is the viewpoint of this whole ecosystem, and it's an abundance mindset at the end of the day, right? So the opportunity is for the real estate agent to really own the tools that they're working with, right? So it's branded for them, and their clients aren't going to a third party, one of the bigger portals, et cetera, and they lose their clients that way, right? So we really truly believe that there's an opportunity for the agents to own all their technologies, right? So we'll work with integrations, et cetera. But there's plenty of space out there in this market, and there's plenty of technologies as well. And so as we continue to grow, it's really about differentiation and how we set the agent up for success.
And then before we kind of jump ahead, looks like we got a little bit ahead there. What is home? What does it do? What's the purpose? Who is it for? Consumer? Is it for agent? Just give us a whole kind of overall what it does.
Right. So Home is a real estate engagement platform we created for real estate agents, teams, and brokerages to connect with their client. And our overall goal is to establish a lifetime relationship between the agent and their customers. We do that by providing a mobile platform, which consists of two separate but integrated apps. So one for the real estate agent, team, and brokerage, and the other one for the consumer. The overall goal is to place the real estate agent as a trusted advisor in the whole relationship. And an analogy that we use is we have financial advisors for our stocks, our portfolios, et cetera, but we don't have a advisor for our homes, which for a lot of folks is their largest asset. So who better than the real estate agent who helped you purchase that property to be placed in a position to continue to add value and provide guidance through that home ownership process. So our platform is from qualified lead and initial engagement with the agent and the client through the buy or sell transaction, and then post-transaction, how do we create an environment and a nurture strategy that's different than what's out there today?
And so how long has Home been kind of accessible to real estate agents at this point?
So we launched our product in July of last year.
Okay.
So, a little less than a year.
Coming up on a year almost.
Coming up on a year,
And one of the questions that I had that, and maybe you know the answer or you don't just because you're in the space, but obviously one of the things that we talked about was potentially getting away from some of the bigger platforms and things like that you flat out said the big fear for agents is that people are going to go to this site and they're going to lose their clients. What do you think the reason for that is in regard to here we have a platform that's been pretty successful for real estate agents for quite some time, but over the last maybe 3 to 5 years, that organization has kind of turned on the people who have kind of helped them become the platform that they are. What's the why behind that, if you know? I mean, is being in that space?
Yeah, I think they've just found a way to monetize in a different manner, right? And so they are B2C platform. So we just got to say we're talking about Zillow, right?
Mm-hmm.
So they are a B2C platform, and their revenue and their business model is just a lot different than other tech companies. So their engagement, their approach is more, leveraging the agent and generating leads and ultimately getting referrals, right? And that's really how their business model works, as opposed to other technologies which provide more of a tech service rather than a referral base, right? And so I look at it as lead generation versus a tech stack that will enable you to really own your own business. And there's other companies that have done better jobs for the real estate agent and brokerages, like the Sides of the world and Place, and there's a few of those. But if we're talking about Zillow, their just business model is just different, and they've been very successful with it. So
Yeah.
can't fault them, but
No,
you know,
of
at the
course.
same time, it's
Profit is not a dirty word.
yeah, right.
So, if I'm hearing you correctly, I mean, Home is more of like a client retention sort of software than lead generation. Are there any intentions in the future for Home to do anything in regards to lead gen, or do you intend to stick with it being more of a retention type of model?
I think there's a opportunity in the future to do passive demand gen, right? And we have that engine today. Ultimately, what we want to do is create lifelong clients, and with those clients, be able to create an avenue and a mechanism for those clients to refer other folks, right? And so now what's different about our app is it is public on the consumer side. So any of us can actually go download it and use it and leverage a lot of the tools, as in when you want to engage with a client, with an agent, then we can hook you up with one. But the opportunity in the future for a consumer from a consumer perspective, not just nurture, is that referral and the network effects that come with that referral base. So we'll continue to grow organically. We're not marketing, to consumers today to leverage our app. It's more of an invitation today, but it is public facing as well.
Gotcha. So in regards to like your background, usually when I have conversations with people that are putting things together like this, at one point they identified a problem. Did you have any experience in real estate where this became something that you decided that you saw a problem and identified it and wanted to fix it, or is there someone in your life that you saw with this problem? I mean, how did this all come to fruition for you?
Yeah, so for good or for bad, I've spent 20 years in mortgage and real estate. So
Okay.
I started off as an analyst at Bank of America, and then the last 10 years spent at Mr. Cooper Group, which is one of the largest mortgage servicers, and up until recently, I think a top 25, I want to say, originator. For them, I was on the real estate side. So that's where I met my co-founder, Jeff, and we worked together for a number of years. So from that perspective, that company it was Zome. We had built and sold over 100,000 properties through foreclosure and REO. So coming out of the recession, we were an online platform where folks come, and mom and pop investors as well as institutional investors could come bid on properties, and we would close them. So what we built and acquired through acquisitions and stuff like that was a title company. So we had Title 365, which ultimately we sold to Blend, a property preservation, field services type of business, as well as valuation, so appraisal, BPOs, that type of stuff.
Sure.
And then there was a software as a service and data side that Jeff, my co-founder, and I ran. So what we encountered there was we did a really good job of providing real estate investors with the tools that they need in order to make decisions on these properties. And we got really good about having folks come back as repeat customers, right? And so as we took a step back from serving servicers and banks and ultimately mom and pop and institutional investors, we said, how do we bring the tools and experiences that we have had the opportunity to be a part over the last 10 years to the retail space, retail being, us
Right.
purchasing properties, right? So a lot of the tools that we built, we can bring that knowledge over, and that's you'll see that in some of the experiences as you use our platform.
I like that.
If there was going to be like one major takeaway, like feature wise, what would it be?
I think the best feature we have, and we've recently submitted a patent application for it, is our true cost of ownership. And so home affordability is something that we really wanted to try to tackle. And there's different ways that you can do that. So from our perspective, it would be providing information and insights to the user, in this case, a potential home buyer. So what the true cost of ownership is we take in information, and ultimately for every property that's for sale, we calculate the principal, the interest, the taxes, insurance, the HOA, and then we work with local and national providers on utilities. So electricity, gas, wastewater, and internet. And we combine that all into one monthly payment. What it allows is the consumer who is a little bit more sensitive to budget and monthly budget and pricing for their housing expenses to really go out and search by monthly payment, including utilities. And so by doing so, it's a different way that consumers can understand in a different way to search. So they don't have to no longer search by just, $500,000 to $600,000, three bedroom, two bath, 2,000 square feet. They can actually go back and say, we actually know how much we can spend as a family on housing.
Yep.
And that's $3,500 to $4,000, and that's it. And so you take into consideration the different insurance. Maybe there's flood insurance or a larger HOA if you're talking about a condo downtown Austin. Right? You take all those into consideration, not just the list price. So then when you do that, you can look at, okay, some homes are built, more recently, have a better energy efficiency, so the utilities are a little bit different. What it does is it levels the playing field and makes every property, the way that you can look at it from a consumer perspective on a monthly payment.
I would say I am a power user of the app. I use it very, very a lot. With that being said, the portion I'm noticing the difference we're using the TCO property taxes. So let's say, for example, we're in Rough Hollow and there's a 2.7 to 2.8% property tax rate. But then I go down the street to Old Lakeway and it's 1.7. Well, the affordability completely changes. Yeah, we sure may have different sales prices. So Rough Hollow may not even populate because of the TCO max I may have compared to the Old Lakeway where it shows it. And then it just gives the expectation for the buyer or current homeowner looking at full opportunities of what's available for them.
Yeah, I mean, as a real estate agent using it, that's one of the questions I had. I mean, what do you feel? Because I know, Matt, you're constantly dabbling with technology and everything along those lines. What do you feel is kind of the your favorite feature that other agents that would be listening to this might say, okay, well, yes, it does all of these things, but what are the main things you're using it for?
Primarily when I'm out in the field. So let's just say, for example, the mystery company that starts with Z, who is Zillow, sends me a lead. And I'm showing John Smith, 123 Main Street.
Mm-hmm.
And all he asked for was 123 Main Street. But typically, as a good agent, I'm going to have backup options. So, let's say John said, the pictures were just awesome, but now inside looks like total dog crap.
Right.
Okay, so then I'm like, okay, how do I pivot this? Well, on home, if I can literally just go to 123 Main Street and I swipe up and I can see the comparables in the area, and it shows me what's currently listed, what's currently pending, what's currently sold, with the TCO factor attached to it as well. I can quickly open it up. Okay, we can get down the street. We can go to 127 Main Street. We pull that. Inside of the app, too, on the agent side as well, you can have a full list of the MLS showing details, too. So if it's showing time, if it's a Supra, it's going to say electronic. If it's call first go, it's going to give you that. I don't have to leave the app to go to the crappy MLS website on a mobile. I have full access on home on the agent detail side. And as soon as I say that, hey, we're actually going to go to 127 Main Street, I'm going to forward you in our app the message of the property. So you can use the directions from within there, even though we're going down the street. Let's say it was 4 blocks down the road.
Yeah, right.
You can stay in the app and whatever apps you have downloaded in regards to your GPS, so Waze, Google Maps, Apple Maps, whatever it is you're using, basically integration is built into the app. So then consumer and both I can just quickly click on the address, click directions, click Waze if I want to, takes me to the house. They have a full TCO now. I have the showing instructions, and it's just very seamless the whole entire process.
Yeah, it sounds like it's just making everything really user-friendly
so
for the
easy.
agent.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah.
And then I've played around with it slightly as a buyer. I know you have as well. What have your buyers said, that their favorite part of it is? Obviously, we talked about the TCO, but is there anything else in addition to that?
TCO is the biggest factor. And then anytime something new comes on market, let's just say they're looking at, again, let's go back to 123 Main Street. And they're looking at the map and look at 123 Main Street and the comps around it. Oh, something new just popped up. Or there was a price reduction. or it had status change or whatever it might be. They can see that everything that kind of in their app. So it takes what Zillow does, but does even better.
And I know the answer to this, but it's all co-branded with your information. They can quickly contact
Yep.
you through just kind of a click of a button.
Mhm.
I'm trying to think of what else, as I've gone through it, that I would describe it as, that agents might say, wow, I need a tool like that.
With that being said, I'll interject there. In the in the description below, we're gonna have a link to the Calendly link. So if you want to ever schedule a demo and you're an agent, to set up time with Vo or Jeff, I'll put that link in the description below. Part two to that, add on to Matt. Yes, it is branded to you based off of whatever your team might be, or you might be solo agent, it might just be a brokerage, but whatever it might be, it'll be displayed on your front page. And the only time home is actually ever advertised or displayed is on the opening screen. Besides that, it's your brand everywhere else.
What'd we miss? How'd we do?
I think you did great.
I mean, again, I'm not trying to wrap this up. I'm just
No.
trying to think of other things that I have kind of identified about the app and putting myself in the agent's shoes and everything along those lines. And with that being said, is there anything that you would say to an agent or a user that maybe we missed?
Touch on the communication, adding people in, and how they're sharing properties.
Right. So one of the things that we help unlock was communication collaboration through the transaction, and also post, but mostly through the transaction. There's an opportunity to bring in multiple parties. So I'll give a couple examples. So decisions to purchase a house is not made in a vacuum. We know that, right?
Right.
There's multiple parties involved. And I'm not talking necessarily about vendors.
You mean like mom and dad?
Yes.
Right.
Yes. And so the first example is, so what we did was we enabled multi-party collaboration and messaging, which crazy enough is not a standard out there, right? Usually it's one-to-one. So if you're working with me and my wife, I have the app and she's communicating through me, right, on the app. So what we've enabled is, my wife and I would both have the app. You would be able to invite both of us on there, and then we would have a conversation together, share properties, videos, whatever it may be, images, so that you have a one-stop shop, and taking the communications away from text, email, phone. Phone is always going to be important, so that's always going to be there. But rather than, hey, I know I had a conversation with Vo and his wife, let me go look through my text, let's look through email, it's all there in the app. In the future, we'll be bringing in other parties, that loan officers, appraisers, title agents, into the conversation as well. Again, just to keep everybody apprised of where things are at, so you're not
Sure.
constantly having to check in, because there are a lot of different parties involved. And then the other example I would give is we've had agents come and tell us this has really been helpful, because they have a client that's a young couple, in their mid-20s. Mom and dad are actually helping them out financially, for a down payment
Yep.
and stuff like that.
See a lot of that.
Yeah, and so now they invited mom and dad. Mom and dad really love it because they now have input, or at least they can see what houses, or they're touring or they're favoriting. And as folks within the party or in the transaction favorite properties, we also surface that to the agent as well. So you can really see what's going on in that environment, right? So that's one piece. The other is what we call a quick connect. And so the connection with a prospect for an agent, there's different ways to do it. What we don't want to do is have that person give a business card or something like that and then send them to a website and they fill out a form, and then they're in your CRM or whatnot.
Right.
We worked with a third party as well as Google and Apple, to create a QR code, a deep linking URL in essence, that when you're at an event, a brunch or a happy hour or whatever it may be, you could flash that QR code. The prospect, your prospective client, could scan it. What it does is it identifies what phone they have first. So whether it's Apple or Android, it takes them to the appropriate store. They download it. Once they download it and then log in using either a one-time code or their social accounts, they're presented with the agent's invitation. So and they'll typically accept, right, because you're standing right next to them.
Sure.
So within 30 or 40 seconds, you're connected. They fill out their information. Now you have their contact information. We go ahead and create that contact card within our database. So now you know where that person came from. They came through a QR code, and then you can contextualize how you met that person, and then away you go. So within 30 or 40 seconds, you have their information, they're engaged, and you go on from there. The same thing if you're not next to them, you can text or email that URL, and the same thing happens.
Right.
Yep.
And so it captures all their information. You're getting their phone number, their email address, or do they have to put that information in once they download the app?
Once they download the app, we only ask 4 questions: first name, last name, either email or
Phone number.
and or phone number. Right.
I gotcha.
But the part 2 of it, you won't really, at this point, you don't need phone number or email because all your communication should be going through the app. Yes, we need to make phone calls at some point. So you'll be like, hey, what's your phone number in the app or something? Or they can input it. But if you ever need communication, you have direct communication now with them as soon as they accept the invite.
I always find it can be sometimes difficult to get people to download another app, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So
Which is why we do it right here next to me. Scan
Right.
my shit and we're done.
yeah, the thing that that we've tried to do across the board is to really keep it simple, and hopefully
Yeah.
that comes across. A couple of things. One is a premium look and feel and experience, and the other one's just really simple, intuitive. And so we rack our brains on how do we come up with a great feature, what we think is a great feature, and then we're like, that's really complicated to use. Like if you want to nerd out over it, it's really cool.
Sure.
But just like folks downloading another app, nobody wants to do that, right? And so you got to make it really simple. And hopefully that experience was, relatively simple, and we'll continue to improve on that, over time.
So what's the biggest obstacle right now kind of taking you to the next level and where you want to be? We're getting in about a year in.
Yeah.
Most companies, I sit down with, not only real estate agents, but entrepreneurs, business people. You always hear about that like 2 to 3 year mark until things really take off. What seems to be slowing you down from getting you to where you want to be quicker?
Right now, it's really outreach, right? So it's getting in front of as many agents, teams, and brokerages as we can, and we're still refining what that value proposition and how to present it, really, right?
Sure.
And so really now it's about reps. We feel like if we can get a demo, our conversion's actually pretty good. Folks are impressed with our product. It serves a gap in the market today, and the most important thing I think is it fosters that collaboration, and there's an opportunity for the agent to have their branded app. Like that's a really important thing for real estate agents. So it's really about getting in front of folks, hammering the phones, just getting demos done. And so we're in 4 markets today. I think that's important to say. So we're in Austin, Dallas, Fort Worth, Houston, and Omaha. Omaha being where my co-founder Jeff is and some of the team is from.
Okay. So here's one, and that you might not have an answer to, maybe you haven't thought about it, but just a short story. So when I started this podcast, my intentions were to have like really good, for lack of a better term, serious content that people were going to tune in and be really interested in. And we still provide that, but the majority of what I see people resonating towards is when we're goofing off and having fun.
Yeah.
And so relating that to your app, was there anything in the beginning that you were like, oh, this is going to kill it in front of real estate agents and really get them to adopt? And then after doing presentations, finding out that what was really enticing them was something different?
There wasn't anything, and maybe I'll circle back to that we thought was, man, this is going to be the bee's knees, and it just wasn't. There were things that, so when we built this, we started with a 900-person brokerage as our focus group, right? Of course, there's like, smaller groups within it. So we've tested and built this alongside brokerages and high-performing teams and agents. What we found out was there are certain things that we thought was negligible that was super important. Case in point was
I was going to say, can you unpack that?
Yeah, absolutely. So the feature that Matt was talking about, where you can kind of zoom in and look at a property and see the comps around it, what's active, pending, and recently closed, that was a request from one of the teams and one of the focus groups that we worked on. We're like, why is that really that important? Like you can just use a property search. Well, it's just simplifying the experience. They're like, we have to go to 3 different places. We just want to get one view, one screen of what the activity looks like, right?
Mhm.
And using our experience and our noggin, we can derive what that, what the pricing should be in that environment. The other thing is just pulling in data. So we are part of the MLSs, so we are able to pull in the MLS information. We also pull in assessor records, public records, all that good stuff, and just surfacing some of that information. Folks wanted to see, okay, what uh, what lockbox is it? And we're like, okay, is that important?
It is.
And obviously it was. Like to us, it was like it's just a bunch of data, right, that we're pulling down. So we actually sat down and said, what do you want to surface? They're like, we would love the telephone number of the agent. I'm like, well, how do you go get that today? Well, we go to our car, we log onto our laptop, we log into the MLS system, we pull that number down, we call, try to set up an appointment, and then away we go. So if you could just pull that in because you already have the data, that's awesome.
Yeah.
And so if you go one step further, if you just let us make a call or a text directly from the app, we would love that even more. And so it was something, there are a lot of things that are really simple in our minds that why would you want that? You have that information somewhere else. But it's about creating that simple experience where we challenge ourselves to do everything on a mobile app. So we will get to a web app at some point in time, but everything that we feel that is important to the agent, we're trying to build on the go because agents are always on the go. They have two hands, but most of the time they can only use one one. So we want everything to be accessible on a phone and have a great experience using one hand, not driving, but walking around.
Guilty.
Being able to access that information, especially if you're in the field of clients.
Well, and that's super interesting. And so that kind of does answer my question, but there's nothing that you guys put together that you thought was going to be crucial that no one's using. I would envision that you guys have the ability to track what isn't used as well as what is.
So a competitive market analysis, we blew out this. So we built something like that in the past life, and we wanted to bring that here. And it was just this monster that we thought was going to be awesome. And the more that we got into it, the more the agent was like, we don't need all of that. So we spent, a decent amount of time trying to create the UI, UX, the data that feeds into it. And we will build it at some point in time. But the great thing about working with these partners is they're like, we don't really need that right now.
Yeah.
And we actually need like a V1 of that on the phone. Like you can make it more robust later. So that was great feedback that we got that we didn't churn on and spend a ton of time on, but instead worked on other features that were really important to agents.
What other features that are coming out in the future?
So some of the additional ones would be a more broader notification suite, right? And so allowing the consumer, your client, as well as agents to be aware of when certain events happen. So something as simple as like save searches and new listings to something like when a task is done within the system.
Homeowner checklist or
the homeowner checklist and stuff like that. So one thing we didn't mention yet was the guides. So we've built out buy and sell guides within the app. So think of it as just a roadmap for the process. So, whether you're a first-time home buyer or you've done it more frequently, typically it's 5 to 10 years between when you actually, unless you're an investor or something like that. For a homestead, it's like 7 to 10 years before you swap homes. And so being that it's so infrequent, even if you are familiar with this space, you still want to be reminded of, what the process looks like, what my agent is doing for me, while, they may not be communicating because they're working with a bunch of other agents clients at the same time. But, what are they doing for me during this time? I think agents get a bad rap for not being able to communicate. You don't want to say, these are all the things I'm doing for you at every point in time. But our app allows you to understand, you as the consumer, to understand, hey, my agent is doing A, B, and C for me right now. They may not be talking to me, but it's part of the process. I may not understand the process completely, but they're running around, they're doing comps, they're trying to help me get a lender. They're doing all these things to provide value for me. And I think that, as time progresses with the lawsuits and everything like that, it's helped buyers, agents justify like this is the value I'm providing to you as your buyer agent, right? And over time, however that shakes out in a couple, a year, 2 years, 3 years, whatever it may be, and how the structure may change for compensation. I think the lead in is it's been an opportunity for buyer agents to say, these are the things I'm doing for you. And as they go through and progress through that list, there's a lot of contextualization and education that happens for the consumer as well through the process.
It's funny he's kind of started on that. We're on like our last episode with Vanessa when I was adding on. So basically, I don't give home access. Sure, they can go download it, but I don't give home access directly to them until they sign a buyer representation agreement. I use it as an invitation that you have to have and a leverage point. So adding on to your point of like, okay, this is what I'm doing as a buyer's agent in that sense. Like if you want to work with me, sure, I'll get you an access to home and I'll get you onto our suite and I'll get you, we can talk through there, having her, you can have a sell guide, buy guide, homeowner's toolkit, everything else that we're going to have through there. TCO, you can shop that way.
Yeah, just trying to present more value.
Exactly.
Is there anything that is being requested by agents that is coming up fairly regularly but is not doable?
Yes. Oh, not
No,
doable.
no.
Not doable. No.
Well, I'll touch on
At the moment.
Something that we're working on right now, what we've heard loud and clear is integrations of CRMs.
Got it.
Right. And so that's something that is very, very top of mind for us. I think we do believe that it will unlock the opportunities with a lot of agents and teams. Again, going back to that simple, intuitive mantra, right? And by being able to integrate CRMs, I think it would be a good opportunity to continue to simplify the agent's world. I mean, what is the average agent let me rephrase that. How many tools and technologies does an average agent use? I think I know the answer, but
I don't know the answer.
I would think at least a minimum of 6 tech stack.
Yeah, it's
Okay.
way more than that.
Yeah, I mean,
Is
if
it
you
really?
count like calculators and
Yeah, just
right.
yeah, apps, technology, and it's like 17.
I'm going to try. Like, okay. Bomb, Follow
Yeah.
Boss, Ylopo, Home, Cloud CMA,
You've got my
Transaction Desk, Gold Star.
Mm-hmm. I mean, you
What else am I
probably
using?
have
Spotify,
Spotify.
Therapy.
yeah, right.
Yeah.
What is like? There's a lot of social media ones too.
Yeah,
right?
I mean,
Fair.
you could argue
Yeah.
you
that
push to.
all of your social media, I use that as almost a
Completely.
CRM.
Exactly.
Or any technologies that help you push to those, it could
Yeah.
be your CRM, but it could be other technologies, other technologies for your podcast. There's just a lot. Like, it's such an intricate world, and there's so much involved in real estate in general. No matter what role that you're in, it's just a industry that has so many different parties involved, and that's why the opportunity's always been there, and it's still there to simplify it. And I think we're taking a big step to do that between the agent and the consumer, and really just creating a great, simple experience.
Right on.
What, based off our last conversations, what is on the roadmap after integrations with CRM?
After integrations,
Is it showing time?
yes. So it would be more,
Okay.
along the line that we're looking down the value chain to see all the different integration points. So it would be first would be a CRM, next would be showing time. May want to bring in .loop or DocuSign, it's transaction management or an e-signature type of tool.
Mm-hmm.
So those are kind of really next on the roadmap.
Cool.
What's next on your roadmap as far as trying to get in front of agents? I mean, obviously you're here in Austin. If I'm not mistaken, you're originally from Dallas.
I'm originally from Wichita Falls, which is like 2 hours north of Dallas, right by the Oklahoma border.
Okay.
Went to school here in UT Austin.
All right.
Moved to Dallas to be closer to family. Spent 20 years there, and then my wife and I recently moved back a year and a half ago, I want to
awesome.
say. Yeah, her parents live in Wimberley area.
Yep.
And
So
it's nice to
are
be
you
there.
basically, again, going back to just kind of a call to action? I mean, are you just looking to connect with, I would envision you're probably trying to get in front of, large brokerages and everything along those lines, swinging doors, making calls. I mean, is there anything outside of that if we were to get the public service announcement out for VO, I mean, what is that?
Yeah, I think you know, if you guys know anybody that's interested, I think Matt had mentioned already the link for
The
the
calendar.
demo. Um, it'd be a really short one, 15, 20 minutes. You guys can ask questions. I think it's a really good opportunity for you to just take a spin with the home app. And again, since it's in the app stores as public, you could really get a good glimpse of what that experience could look like for your client, and engage ultimately if you decide you and your team or your brokerage decide to come on as clients of ours.
I mean, we could probably get the link in the video here and
Mm-hmm.
have people just click right on it.
Or give me the QR code. We'll throw it like right here.
Yeah. Right on.
Cool. Well, I think let's wrap it on up.
Yeah. I mean, we're about at time.
Okay.
And I typically, we'll go around the horn real quick and just let everybody know exactly what we're looking for at this time. But I'm going to leave it to you, man. I mean, I've used the app, and I encourage everybody to take a look at it. Again, HOM, it's HOM.
Right.
It is a free download, so check that out, and let me know what you think about it. Call me, because if you're looking to buy a home, I want to talk to you also.
Perfect. And then again, I'm Matthew Kemps with Lone Wolf Realty Group at Spyglass Realty. I can't speak highly enough about home. I would call myself a power user. If you have any questions about it, please feel free to reach out to me, reach out to Direct to Vo, or use the link in the description to schedule the demo. And I'll leave it to you.
No, I want to say thank you. It's been a pleasure being on the podcast and just sharing what we've built and kind of the road ahead.
Well, we'll get the word out there. The majority of the people that follow this are real estate agents, so I would envision this will bump up the download a little bit.
Yeah,
Cool.
sure.
Thanks,
All right,
everyone.
man. Thanks.
All right, thanks.